Welcome back to the 8th episode of our F1 MyTeam series. We are in the Austrian GP, and this is going to be an interesting track as I'm kind of okay with the track itself outside of the hairpin. I think that was turn 3, but you know, here we are in qualifying. End of our first run in Q1. We are in the last couple of corners right here, and as we approach the finish line, we get provisional pole. And I mean, usually if we get provisional pole and Sainz and Hamilton have already done their time, so I feel like we are in a good position to call it a day here in Q1. And the results of that is George Russell beats us by 0.05 of a second. No, it's a bit close in the top 3. But we'll just have to see how it bodes in Q2. And here we are in Q2, approaching the last couple of corners here, and we see a car in front of us. It's an Aston Martin, and what do we get from it? We get P2, 0.3 behind Sainz, still faster than Alonso, so I guess we could call it a day here in Q2 as we save a set of tires for 2 runs in Q3, and we see Verstappen and Bottas having a 5-place grid penalty, most likely for blocking, but this seems like a close pack right here up to P9. Here in Q3, the last 2 corners of our first run, we see that Alonso does a 106.2. What do we get? We do 105.7, and we are a bit over a 10th behind Hamilton, and we did the fastest sector 3. I'll take that, but we'll just have to see how well we do on our second run, which is we are P6 currently, so we'll see if we can get a better time, because we did set a purple sector 2, which makes sense because we have a higher downforce car, and since we crossed the line, well,
you've got pole position.
Our engineers had it for me. We did get pole position, which to me, I'm a bit surprised, but it's a high downforce. We did put more downforce, so I guess we make up a lot of the time we lose on the straights on those fast corners in sector 2. But we'll see what we can do in the sprint to see if we can keep this pole position heading into the race.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Roberts lines up on pole position, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Perez, Norris, Bottas, Gasly, Magnussen, Joe, Albon, Oscar Piastri, Stroll, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Doohan, Sargent, and Nick de Vries. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
And the 5 lights are out. We get a really good, maybe decent start, because we did keep the place ahead of Sainz. While you see the rest of the field, Leclerc lost his place to Russell. I think he lost his place to Verstappen, and we are pulling a good bit here, because it's a bit kind of overcast, so this should help us in terms of tire temps and tire wear. So we should be doing well in this race. As we see, like, we, after that back straight right there. We are still leading about half a second, going a bit more than that. Here we go to the fast left-hander. Another fast left-hander. We are gaining so much time because of our downforce setups, where the rest, I feel like the rest of the grid doesn't have that, or maybe at least Science doesn't, because now that we head to the start-finish line, and we're about almost a second. We're almost a second away from Science, so we might as well be running away with this, just because it's I mean, look, this is the only place that will catch us. Literally the straight lines right here. So after turns 2 and 3, I mean, if you count that small turn a turn, then yeah. But here we are on the back straight again. Yes, they are catching, but once we get to this series of turns, this high speed turns, watch that gap between us and Science go up to basically a second, because now it's like 0.9, now it's a second. There you go, it goes over a second, and I feel like we're gonna keep that heading into turns 9 and 10, where, as we saw in the Austrian GP, there were a bunch of track limits. I think there was like around 1200 track limits, if I remember correctly. It was somewhere within there, probably. I don't think there would be more than 1200, but somewhere around that ballpark. And lap 3, we are sailing goodbye to Science, and we see Verstappen right here gonna overtake him. Does he have DRS? Did he overtake before the DRS detection zone? Let's see. I think he does it, because I don't see his DRS wing open. Science? No one's DRS wing is open. Okay. I guess we just missed. I guess the angle here just kind of, you know, made it look like we missed it, but it wasn't that bad. But Verstappen is kind of making a good gap to Science, so I'm assuming he does have a good downforce. And here you go, Russell overtaking Science in turns 9. That's in the last corner. Science is just dropping down. Like, look, even his teammate Leclerc is making a run for him in the front straight. Goes into turn 1, gets a good run. Still has all of them has DRS now, and will they be able to challenge Verstappen coming into turn, what's this, 3? And no, they aren't, but Sainz and Leclerc are kind of duking it out in position, while we're just sailing by right here. And Sainz does keep his position against Leclerc, while they're all kind of like in a big DRS train from P2 all the way down to P10. So this is going to be a long DRS train, unless Joe can get any closer, which I kind of doubt, because he is like almost 2 seconds off his teammate Bottas. Right there, and if we look down the standings, our teammate is P last, so that's a bit rough. Here we go, Hamilton getting a run on Leclerc in turns 9 into turn 10, and Leclerc keeps the spot. I feel like Leclerc does have a good amount of downforce in his car, but as we head into turn 1, they are still fighting and duking it out. Leclerc, having the outside line, kind of has a better takeoff, and we see Russell overtake Verstappen in there. And does Verstappen overtake Russell before the DRS detection zone? If he does, he doesn't get any DRS, but no, he doesn't. So he does get DRS. Russell's gonna get, I mean, I was kind of expecting Russell to get swallowed in by the cars behind him, but the cars behind him are having a three-way fight between Leclerc, and Hamilton overtakes Leclerc from the outside. Oh my god. Okay, there's some racecraft right there, and you see here, last 3 laps, you see some rain coming down on us. So, I mean, none of us are gonna pit, because it's not worth pitting. Here, in the last 3 laps, you see some raindrops. No one's gonna pit in. No one's gonna sacrifice a pit right here. It's not enough laps to, you know, pit. Not unless it gets really bad. And we see Russell Verstappen duking it out. Russell overtakes Verstappen. Verstappen and the rest of the train behind him are now having DRS, but they are all fighting each other. And as we head into this really hairpinny corner that I constantly hate, because as you pass that white line, there's a tiny bump right there. If you gas on it too much, you will spin. But regardless if Verstappen has DRS, Russell was able to maintain that position, and now it's just that was just I guess a pure drag race right there. And let's kind of tune back in here for a bit as we see Hamilton continuously hounding Sainz as they've been duking. Oh no, Leclerc kind of fell down 2 positions right here. And wait, I noticed Hamilton's on mediums, and he's hounding Sainz and the Ferrari who's on softs. Well, I mean, if what we saw in the previous British IRL British GP, we saw the McLarens put on some hards, and Norris was able to keep P2 from that. Unfortunately, Piastri just safety car wasn't on the side. But here we go. I think Sainz should have both Hamilton and Sainz have DRS. Okay, so Hamilton's going to be keeping that position as he keeps the inside line at the end of that straight and reverts to the outside and has the momentum, and he should be good. And Verstappen, while we were tuning into the fight between Hamilton and Sainz, Verstappen is losing ground quickly to Russell, as Verstappen is now 2 seconds behind him. Does he have any I don't see any damage on his front wing. I don't see a damaged side pod. He's just slowing down, and now Hamilton is now hounding Verstappen into this front straight. DRS is still on. He goes on the inside line. Verstappen still ahead, so Hamilton will have his DRS on into the straight, and you see we're on the last lap, and the rain is heavy. You see those sprays from those slick tires. This is Inter's conditions right now, and I think they should have DRS. No, DRS is still not disabled. DRS is still on, and you see that the track is wet. I don't even see a dry line anymore. Look at that. There is no dry line. But since we are on the last lap, let's tune in to our driver right here as we are in the last couple of corners in this sprint. And we are sailing away right now. This was hard to drive as we are in the last corner into the front straight. We cross the finish line and we get P1.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work out there. That was a really strong drive and a great finish. Well done.
Followed by Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, and Bottas. I mean, I should have stopped at Perez because he stopped in top 8, 4 points in the sprint, but that was an interesting race. Mixed conditions, not the best conditions in my opinion. We made it work, and that's the important thing. So now we shall see how the race unfolds.
Welcome from the beautiful Styrian Mountains for another chapter in the story of the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 to the right and 3 to the left, making up the total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of cars running wide today, especially through the last corner, as the wet conditions make the cars skittish through the downhill sections. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Roberts lines up on pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Verstappen, Gasly, Joe, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Magnussen, Bottas, Tsunoda, Ocon, Stroll, Hulkenberg, De Vries, Sargent, and Jack Doohan. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
And the lights are out. Here we go. We have a bit of a wheel spin, but we were able to control it. We still had a very decent start as Hamilton was able to jump Russell. Leclerc was able to jump Alonso. Now Hamilton and Russell both duking it for positions, and both Ferraris are duking it for positions. And now we have a 1 second gap in a rainy start here in Austria. This 1.2 second lead is going to help us as I feel like all of the I am blanking out right now. As we know that, I don't like rain races, because especially now that we're on full wets, now I have to be like kind of be ginger on the gas pedal right here, especially on this left-hand corner right here. This is usually high speed, but kind of okay with it, because now we did put enough down. We do have a downforce setup car, and since it is raining, it is helping us a bit more, because now we are headed into the end of the first lap of this race. Look at that spray of water. Oh my god. But we almost have a 2 second gap between us and Hamilton. Just look at all that spray from all the cars behind. Man, imagine being in there, having that much spray behind you, and you're at the end of that train. No, thank you. But as we look at here now, we are midway through lap 2, and we just see Verstappen having a horrible start right here. He went down to P10. I think he just lost so many places right now, but Zhou had a good start, and Piastri as well, because now Piastri's all the way up to P11 right here. And I think the rain is the biggest factor right now. I just feel like the devs did Verstappen dirty, or it's just Verstappen had a bad start. It's raining, a bunch of wheel spin, all these cars, poor visibility. I feel like it just wasn't his day, and we see there's a big gap. Not really a big gap. There's a bit of a gap between all these cars, but this is crazy. Wait, am I seeing that right? Is Hamilton on Inters? I don't think I'm colorblind, but I thought that was green for a second. Okay, never mind. It's actually blue. I guess there was a part that it did look green, and while we are going through, this race, the early stages of this race, we're all on wets. I'm just glad I actually went with high downforce, because we knew that it was going to rain, so we innately had more downforce, but I wasn't sure how heavy that rain was, and I'm glad I did have a lot of downforce, because at least compared to the rest of the grid, because right now I am running away with this race, because we are on lap 3. I am like almost 3 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Hamilton's actually pulling a gap on Russell right now, because now it went from like 2 to 3 tenths to now 1 whole second. So I feel like Hamilton just got a really good beat on this track, and then Russell I feel like might not be having the best day, because as he gets, you know, farther away from Hamilton, I feel like he is getting closer to the two Ferraris behind him. But here we go. Like, if we kind of look down here a bit, Verstappen is kind of making up for that blunder of a first lap, because now he was able to overtake Gasly. He was able to get a 1.5 second gap on Gasly, and he should now be closing on the McLaren of Lando Norris right here, which, in my opinion, isn't like, he isn't. I mean, the McLaren isn't fast, if I remember correctly. On their R&D screen, they're one of, like, you could count them as like the lower midfield team, but Verstappen shouldn't have any issue trying to catch up with Norris, as he's basically, I feel like he just got rid of almost a second now in just like 2/3 of this track. But rain race, anything could happen, especially once it dries up enough to where, you know, you could actually pit in for inters, and then I feel like all hell will break loose at that point. But as we kind of scroll up the grid, everyone's kind of leaving their gaps. There are no DRS zones, but we kind of see Perez kind of inching a bit closer. And if we kind of look up a bit on the standings while we tune in with this Alonso and Perez here, you could see that Russell was able to cut that 1 second gap back down to almost half a second, and now kind of just jumped back up. So I'm assuming they're probably on the high downforce section, and Russell probably doesn't have that much high downforce on his car, at least compared to Hamilton. And then, like, once we hit the straights, then that downforce will then his slightly lower downforce car will probably make that gap smaller again. But when we look here on Alonso, Perez is kind of catching up, but I don't think he is catching up fast enough, and I feel like they probably have similar amounts of downforce, as Perez takes a look in, goes really inside. Oh, and Perez goes in for a pit. Does he DNF like last time? No, he doesn't. So he does get he does pit early, and what does he pit for? I think the angle is horrible right here, but I could take a guess that, yep, those are green lines on his tires. He takes an early stops for inters, and we see Hulkenberg do the same thing. He pits. What does he do? Yes, we see those green tires go on Hulkenberg. So will Perez and Hulkenberg's undercut work for them, as it is still somewhat rainy? There's still, if we ride, like, as we ride on board our car right now, I mean, I kind of see a bit of a line on track. So it might not be far for Inter's weather, but I feel like it might be, in my opinion, a tad bit too early. Maybe like next lap or lap 8 might be good. And ooh, we see Hamilton dive in for the pits. Let's see what tire does he go on to. I feel like the Mercedes. Okay, I see those green tires right there, and he goes out. We see Bottas. I feel like Bottas comes in. Okay, I feel like a few more people are actually gonna start going in now, but it might be the better call. But we will just have to see how much time Hamilton will get. Hamilton loses a place to Albon, as I feel like it is still a bit too early right now. But we shall have to see, as Albon is on wets, Hamilton's on inters. He maybe on a straight line, maybe Hamilton might have the better strat, but here we'll just have to see. I'm not sure when we'll end up pitting, but there is a tiny bit I could see it, and we go in for a pit as well. As since we saw Hamilton pit, I don't want us to get undercutted, so we will go pit, go get some inter tires, as the rest of the field still kind of stays out longer, and we go in for inters. We come out P6. I think we're gonna come out just ahead of Gasly, and we do get ahead of Gas, just about half a second ahead of Gasly right here, which isn't bad. So there is still a decent amount of spray right here, but I feel like we're kind of holding it stable, and I think we are now on the correct tires. I don't blame Hamilton for trying to undercut going in a lap early, but I think this would have been the perfect time to actually go pit. I feel like this is the early pit stop, because you see Perez didn't get up that far. Verstappen pitted as well. I think he pitted around the same time as I did, but he's now in P17, and he has to make up so much time. And I do see him kind of catching up a lot on Stroll. Stroll is losing a bunch of time to Verstappen, and Verstappen is on inters. So I feel like Verstappen just has more grip in that car, because it is wet conditions right now, and we see more cars go into the pits right now. So, but there's still a lot more that are in wets. No one is kind of gamble. Are they really waiting that long? Because I don't think Piastri's going to catch up on Hamilton anytime soon. Hamilton is already on inters, while we're also on inters, but we are going to catch up on Norris. Alonso's still on wet, so are the two Ferraris right here. And Russell, who's currently leading the race right now, is on wets, but will they pit now? And also, I can't believe I don't know. Is Russell the gamble here, or was it Hamilton the gamble for their strat? And I feel like, is he going straight? No, he is still going out there, and we see one of the Ferraris pit. Leclerc pits while Sainz stays out for another lap, so we already know Ferrari's gonna put in those inters. And I feel like there's not a lot of spray coming out. There's not a lot. There is a bit. I wouldn't say there's a complete dry line, but the rain doesn't seem as strong as it was earlier. So I am kind of confused why they haven't. And as we kind of tune in here, I feel like the better tire overtake Alonso. I wouldn't say with these, because he's still within a tenth of us, but as we head into this corner, we see the difference in, I would even say, the tires, maybe even the setup of our car with the amount of downforce, because we could attack these high-speed corners and carry more speed in them, even though we're on inters. And with that, we are within a second of Sainz, even though we don't have DRS. I feel like the top three should be pitting anytime soon. And no, Sainz stays out. Sainz stays out. Russell, I think, still stayed out. Oh man, what are they? Are they trying to get these wets to finish at the end of the race? Ooh, and that was a close one. That was an overtake, yes, but that was a very close one. We shut the door right as we overtook him. Yeah, that was a bit too close for comfort, in my opinion. And we're already, and with that one overtake from turn 1 all the way to this hairpin, we already have a 1.3 second gap, and we see Verstappen overtake Perez. As we know, I think Verstappen is the better driver, or at least the better rated driver. So if I think what I think they're doing is, and are wanting to finish this race on wet, I feel like there's already mistaken, and we go a bit on the inside. We try to get the move on Russell as Russell still keeps the position. We have the better grip. We go on the outside here, and we kind of are hounding Russell, but Russell on a slower car. We go in here, we stick a nose in turn 9, we keep it clean. Russell keeps it clean. It didn't kind of squeeze us, and we get the move done in the last corner. Oh, before we hit the front straight. Man, that was close. That was a bit there's a bit of a clinch on trying to overtake on turn 9 right there, sticking our nose. That was good, clean driving from Russell, for at least leaving us some space. And I think Inter's is the better tire right now, and we're just leaving Russell in his wets while we have what, in my opinion, is the better tire. And on this camera view, yes, it's still raining, but it wasn't raining as hard as it was earlier where we actually needed wets. Now this is a bit of Inters, and we have, I would say, we are carrying a bit more speed into these corners, as it's not, completely wet, right? At least on the line, like you could clearly see, like even just on that view we had on the nose cone, we could kind of see where the racing line is and how much less water there is compared to the non-racing line. So I feel like this would have been the time to actually pit, but we see Russell still out, Sainz is still out. Hamilton was able to take care of Alonso, and Alonso actually pits. We see Alonso, Norris pit. Man, if they are, I'm already assuming of course they're gonna pit for Inters, but I feel like they should have pitted earlier, as that was the best time to do it, and now they got undercut. Yeah, I feel like they did pit late for Inters because they literally just got overcut. They got undercutted by Verstappen and Perez. So even, a bit of Hulkenberg got close to them too. Hulkenberg is doing well because he pit on Inters, and I feel like the only wet tire runners we have right now is Russell, Sainz, Zhou, and Piastri. That's in the top 10, but everyone else, I feel like they're all, I guess everyone, they all pit? I feel like they did. Okay, maybe we still have some Stroll. Okay, so a lot of people did pit. I guess it just wasn't that obvious, but I think one of the latest one was Albon because he's down 21 and Tsunoda's over there. But here we go. We see Russell come in. Russell's coming in for, oh my god, what are these strategies right here? They got severely undercutted by Verstappen and Perez too. Alonso Piastri are like too far. Like they're 20. That's 20 seconds right there. But still, not jump down to 10 seconds. Piastri goes all the way down. Oh man, I think he got screwed over. Man, that was a big loss for Piastri, and he gets over. Oh man, these strategies are horrendous right here. But Russell did go from P2 to just P5, which is not bad. It could have been worse. It could have been as bad as Piastri's, but there's nothing you can do. It's just how horrible the strategy, how horrible the strategy is right now. They really went the halfway mark with those wet tires and went straight and then went to Inters instead of like going to inters early, especially we saw, I was doing well on inters. We saw Hamilton do well on inters, even though he pitted a lap earlier than I did. But, and then Perez went in earlier than me and Hamilton, so, and he was still able to undercut Russell. But as we tune back in, Perez is now 1.1 seconds behind Sainz. Russell is continuing to, I wouldn't say enlarge, make the gap larger, but it is not increasing that much. It's about staying the same. So Sainz and Russell kind of has the same pace. But the question is, can Russell catch Verstappen? And I mean, it kind of looks like it. He is not gonna be able to. But we'll just have to see. And here we are back in lap 21. Gasly spinning did cause a safety car, and this is the safety car restart after few laps of the safety car being there. We're kind of going slow a bit into this corner, and we're still slow. Hamilton's kind of trying to get the jump on us, and then we jumped the gun a bit with the gas on. And was it that big of a gap? No, not really. But De Vries still 2 seconds behind on the safety car restart. And Hamilton is kind of keeping up with us right now. And we see Leclerc just falling back right now, almost a second, but over a second, and Verstappen is currently hounding him, and Verstappen has the inside line in that hairpin, but Leclerc does have the better getaway right here. But as we let's tune back in, I feel like we are just gonna start running away with this, as we do have the higher downforce, thus we can take this usually these two high-speed corners in higher speed. Because look at that, that's instantly we basically blew open the gap 0.3 of a second, almost 0.4 of a second right here. And this is us, my opinion, sailing away in the win. And Russell was able to overtake Verstappen. Man, he just missed that one, but it might have been a good fight right here. And you see Norris and Perez kind of duking at it as well, but Norris having the better of Perez in there, and Sainz overtakes Verstappen on turn 1. Verstappen is starting to fall back right here, and Alonso has a look, takes the outside line, heading into the hairpin. I feel like Alonso got blocked a bit by Sainz, who was going a bit slower, but it looks like Verstappen might have the better takeoff right here and fends off Alonso in that Aston Martin. But this is what happens after a safety car restart. That hairpin really is the best way to juggle up the order right now. But especially with a close field right now after a safety car restart. But we shall see here. Alonso is hounding Verstappen. He is within 1/10 of Verstappen right here. And does he go for the overtake on turn? Yes, he does. He goes on the inside of turn 9, overtakes Verstappen, and finishes the move. Oh man, yeah, that's a lot of overtake. And here we go. Norris takes a chance on Verstappen as well. Takes the inside line into turn 1, but Verstappen does have the better exit, as Norris has to compromise his speed right there, as Perez is now overtaking. And Norris sense it on the inside of Verstappen, but I feel like Verstappen still has the better exit right here, and that Norris putting on that move kind of had Perez back down a bit, because he was behind Verstappen and he had nowhere else to go right now. But we are seeing a good fight right here as we are on the penultimate lap of this race, and we are about to head into the final lap. The question is, will Norris be able to get a run with Verstappen? Especially, we've seen a lot of overtakes happen here in turn 9, just not... Okay, Norris doesn't go for it, but will he get a run on Verstappen here on the front straight? Does he? Okay, he tucks it. He keeps it tucked behind Verstappen. But now the next opportunity would be at that hairpin, which in my opinion is the best opportunity. If you don't overtake him there, then the position's gone. Unless he gets a good run on Verstappen here, which it looks like he doesn't. And I feel like this is gonna be our finishing order right here, as we ride on with us taking in the last few corners of this race. You could kind of see, I think the rain has stopped. I don't see any other raindrops, but the track is still wet. This is why we still have the inters. And as we head into the last corner of this race, we are gonna collect that checkered flag and win here in Austria, in the home track of Red Bull.
Oh, superb driving. That is the race win, my friends. Well done.
You can't fault the performance on the track today. A well-deserved victory. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Here comes your top 3 making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1.
And Red Bull kind of dropped the ball on their home track. P7, P9 on their home track. Man, that's, in my opinion, they kind of dropped the ball on that one. But it was a bit of a... It was a wet race. We saw some interesting things happen. Joe DNF with mechanical failure. Gasly got beached because he spun. But there's nothing we can do about that. And the rain races are kind of interesting. Mostly won in the pits and strategies, which isn't always the best, especially for the AI, but a win's a win. I'll take it. And if you guys did like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you guys want to be notified every time I post a new video, especially on our MyTeam series. And yeah, till the next time, this is Spaniel 12, signing out.
With this weekend of Formula 1, so be sure to join us for the next one.